Let's see how we're doing on audio, guys. Check, 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 check. Soft. Let's see if I can. Can you do it again? Yep. You don't have to give me that. Don't do that. Just yeah. Yep. Yeah. Check, 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 check. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Try again. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3. Thank you. Everyone good? Thank you.
Minneapolis is serious about our commitment to police reform, even if the President of the United States is not. Just yesterday, the independent monitor for our settlement agreement said that Minneapolis thus far has made more progress in the first year around police reform and creating a foundation for change than virtually any city under a consent decree in the United States. We're going to move forward with that work, with or without the White House. It also needs to be said that the timing of this move for a dismissal is entirely predictable. The Trump administration is a mess. They had every opportunity to move for a dismissal in the months previous to right now, but instead they delayed. They asked for extension after extension, and of course, it is predictable that they would move for a dismissal the very same week that George Floyd was murdered 5 years ago. What this shows is that all Donald Trump really cares about is political theater. This is predictable. We had a good feeling that this was coming. The judge gets to decide whether to dismiss the case, and I can't speak to what the judge will decide, but I can speak to what we are doing. Here is the bottom line. We're doing it anyway. We will comply with every sentence of every paragraph of the 169-page consent decree that we signed this year. We will make sure that we are moving forward with every sentence of every paragraph of both the settlement around the Minnesota Department of Human Rights as well as the consent decree. The bottom line is this. People should expect us to do this work. People have been demanding for years that we do this work, and we're not going to let them down. Neither Trump nor anyone in Washington can stop us from doing this work that we are indeed committed to. We know what needs to happen, and indeed, we've already started. Our efforts have been made clear through the report that Alifa provided just yesterday. What did it tell us? It told us that Minneapolis is serious about reform, even when the White House is not. It tells us that we show up for the work. We've built out the team. We're making the necessary investments, and we're going to hold every person in our city accountable to carrying out the mission that we all have committed to. It also tells you that the court-ordered agreements actually help our officers, making sure that our officers have the necessary wellness and care, the ability to recalibrate during calls, and it's a broad recognition of the trauma and difficulty that they go through on a daily basis in furtherance of this honorable profession of keeping the people of this city safe. It helps them, and we're going to stand by them in making these necessary reforms and in keeping our city safe. Here in Minneapolis, crime is down. Here in Minneapolis, recruitment is up. And here in Minneapolis, we are also going to carry out these important reforms that we've committed to from day one. We've already been doing the work to implement this consent decree. We're clearing the backlog of police misconduct cases, and we've changed our disciplinary matrix. We're rolling out new use of force policies. We're deepening our community engagement. We're investing in violence prevention, and we're expanding our mental health response work. We will ask Alifa, our independent evaluator, under the state settlement agreement to oversee this new set of reforms just as we have planned. The bottom line, again, is we're doing it anyway. Alifa brings deep experience in police reform, and they're helping to ensure our work is transparent, that it is accountable, and that it's community-centered. And I also want you to look around this room. Look at the people who are up here with me. This is a team that we have brought to the city. It is a team that is entirely committed to doing this work. These are individuals that have not been hired on contingent on a White House being on board. This is an incredible team that we have brought because we plan on carrying it out and getting the job done for the sake of the people in this city. The whole idea is not just policy changes on a piece of paper. It's the policy change. It's making sure our officers know what the work looks like and what they're supposed to do. It's ensuring that they are trained in on how to comply. It's holding them accountable when they don't. It's lifting them up when they do. And it's making sure that every interaction that every person has on the street is in recognition of the changes that we are trying to make. In other words, they're treated with respect and dignity, even during the toughest of situations. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. The work is not just about what's on the paper. It's about the work that is carried out in every street for every person in our city. We made a promise to the people of the city of Minneapolis, and we're going to keep it. I'll pass it to Chief O'Hara.
Good morning. My name is Brian O'Hara, and I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. I came to Minneapolis almost 3 years ago to lead this department through a historic reform effort. And since then, just yesterday, we heard from our independent monitor, reflecting about what has happened in the Minneapolis Police Department over the last year. And it's clear in their report that this police department has accomplished more in terms of reform than any other police department under a consent decree. And people need to know that that consent decree is real. It covers all of the issues that people around this country find as problematic with policing in the United States. We are addressing them, and we are making more progress than any other city has. Whether it's use of force, stop, search, and arrest practices, internal affairs, disparate impacts based upon race, we are making real progress, and that work will continue. In addition, we are going beyond what is required in any paragraph of any court-ordered reform. We will be the best police department in the nation, period. Not only will we deliver change for our residents, we will deliver change for the brave men and women of this police department that put their lives on the line every day to protect our residents. We will have a greater focus on their health and wellness, a greater focus on ensuring they have the facilities and the training that is adequate for the demands that they face in the street. And we will continue to restore pride and trust in the men and women who wear this uniform. So whether or not there is a federal consent decree, as the mayor has said, the work continues. We have been and we remain committed to real, lasting change, both for our residents and for the men and women who serve here. I just want to say again, thank you to the mayor for his leadership and his support through this, and thank you to the members of the council who have made yesterday's report documenting our accomplishments possible. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll open it to questions.
I have a question for the chief. Do you have any concerns that this sends a message to your officers that the reforms that you're implementing here aren't that big of a deal, and it might make it more difficult for you to push through that culture change that you've been talking about?
So Matt's question was, does this send a message that the reforms are not important? The members of this police department have been through an unbelievable amount of change and of trauma, just like the residents of this community. And I think they know things needed to change here. And I think by and large today, you know, the men and women who remain here are deeply committed to getting this right. They are not about to turn their backs on their fellow officers or the residents of this community. So while there is often a lot of uncertainty because they don't know what all of this means, I need them to know that I care deeply about them, and I will have their backs and ensure that they are able to be safe and they will be prepared to do their job and provide the excellent police service the city needs.
I'll just add, if these police officers weren't committed to change, they could have jumped ship at any time over the last several years, but rather they've stayed. We've doubled down. They're doing the trainings. They're having a deeper understanding of the policies that we're expecting of them, and we've talked to all of the new recruits, the laterals, the CSOs that are coming in. They want to get in on the ground level because they recognize that something special and important is happening in Minneapolis. They want to be part of this change. They want to be part of the example for so many other cities to follow.
Will the city oppose the DOJ's motion to withdraw the report?
We will be responding to the motion for a dismissal today. And so I don't want to move forward with giving you the exact language right now before the actual motion has been filed.
You guys both mentioned that you're going to follow this federal consent decree sentence by sentence, whether it's actually in place or not. What are some specifics in that federal consent decree that may have not been in the state consent decree?
Well, I hesitate to call any one individual paragraph out. There's obviously a lot of overlap between the Minnesota Department of Human Rights Settlement Agreement and the consent decree. There are some pieces that go beyond what state law allows for in the federal consent decree, including First Amendment issues. So First Amendment would be one example that would be in the consent decree that was not in the settlement agreement. And the bottom line is we're doing all of it. The chief mentioned we're also not limiting ourselves to the changes that are on those pieces of paper. We're invested in this work. The people of our city are invested in this work. We're not messing around when it comes to this culture shift and the reforms that we all need to see and that are long overdue.
I know you said, obviously, the sentiment here today is we're going to operate as this were in effect. I know there's some skepticism given the lack of enforcement. I guess what assurances can you offer that you'll follow through with the added reforms in the federal consent decree, given it's not officially enforced?
So, number of assurances. First, we negotiated the document. We spent countless hours to figure out both how to get this done from a legal perspective, but also get it done from a practical one. We've invested in trainings. We've hired out staff. We've spent tens of millions of dollars, not just to talk about doing this, but to actually get it right, culminating with my signature on a piece of paper. But we're going to go even further than that. We are asking ALIFA, which is the independent monitor, to make sure that we are held to the standards that we're talking about right now. Yesterday, you saw a report. That report talked about the good work that we're doing. It talked about the fact that we are making more progress than virtually any other city under a consent decree in the United States. And it also had some areas where we didn't meet the mark and where we can improve. And what you're going to see going forward, what we would like to see from ALIFA is holding the work up transparently. And I'll tell you now, there will be areas where we hit the mark and we do so on time. There will be other areas where we don't. We're going to do everything possible to succeed, but the most important thing here is that people trust the work that is happening and they trust the outcomes. And that means that when we don't hit the mark, we admit it. And it's not just going to be us admitting it. It's going to be an independent monitor that is evaluating objectively whether those marks have been hit.
So yesterday's report was regarding the settlement agreement, and then I guess I'm just wondering where do things stand when you compare that with the consent decree, and would you say it's a similar amount of work that's been done or more work that is at stake here with this consent decree compared to that?
I can't give, so the question was, would I say that there's been more work that has been done under the consent decree or the Minnesota Department of Human Rights Settlement Agreement? I don't know that I can give you a percentage of the work, and I'm looking to others that may be able to answer this better than I can, but the bottom line is that there's a lot of overlap. I mean, both agreements want to see shifts in how use of force are conducted. Both agreements want to see shifts in how police stops are conducted. Both agreements want to see a whole lot of data collected and compliance in check. Both agreements want to see trainings. And so much of this work is in both agreements. Chief.
So just to add to the mayor's comments, Louis, there in that report, it does talk about some things that they are monitoring, that we are doing, that are not actually in the settlement agreement. They are parts of the federal consent decree that have already been included because we're covering those same topics. So some of that is included already.
Chief O'Hara, based on your experience in New Jersey, if you had to guess how long this process is going to take, how many years do you think we're looking at before the department feels confident that it no longer needs to be monitored or under a court overseeing consent decree?
So Ernesto's question was, how many years do we think until we won't have to be monitored? I know, for example, in Newark, it's been 11 years now. And in many cities, it's been at least 10 years, in some cases 20. But I think there's been a lot of effort over the last few years to have these reforms implemented much faster. And so I think we will see a much faster implementation here in this city. And I think the initial report yesterday reflects that. However, policy implementation is difficult, and there are challenges around data collection and analysis that are necessary in order to demonstrate the compliance, to prove in court that we have appropriately implemented things. So I think it's very, very difficult to say, but I would argue we are already on pace to do things much faster than other cities have. However, we do have, two different sets of requirements now, essentially, that other cities haven't.
If I could follow up, how has the union responded to the consent decree? And are they on board with the bulk of what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, so second question was, how has the union responded and are they on board? I will not speak for the leadership of the Police Federation. However, I do believe that they would also agree that the police officers need better working facilities, that the police officers need the best training and preparation they can possibly have. And I would think the Federation would also agree with the community that we need to clear out backlogs of cases, internal affairs investigations and so on, and that the discipline should be fair and equitable. And so I think there would be a lot of agreement, but you'd have to ask them on specifics.
Have you met resistance in any of what you're trying to move forward from union leadership?
So I have met resistance, of course, at times. I can't think of anything specifically from union leadership, but I think in general in the police department, there are concerns. There's so many unknowns. And you have to consider the fact that this is a police force that has been depleted over the last few years, while the demands of crime and investigations has risen dramatically. So we need to recognize that we are adding all of this additional work in terms of reform. And that's new work that didn't exist before at a time when staffing is low and the demands are so much greater. So I think as time goes on, as officers are able to see the results more of investments in them, and hopefully more and more fairness in terms of how they are treated internally, I am hopeful that there will be increasing buy-in, because I think that's what's happened in other places.
I have a question for Council President Payne. It's been well documented, sometimes MPD and the council members don't always see eye to eye on things. What is just your evaluation of the progress that has been made with the police department, especially with such a monumental anniversary coming up in 4 days from now?
Yeah, well, our primary role is resourcing and oversight. And City Council has made significant investments both in MPD, civil rights, and other parts of our city that are going to allow us to have an effective implementation. But we also have to have oversight. And so one of the things I'm also investing in is our audit department, so that we can bolster our independence when it comes to evaluating internally to make sure that we are actually on track. And so one of the big things I'm trying to communicate is that we need a culture of accountability, not just in MPD, but across our entire enterprise. And so there's always going to be some tension when you're calling things out from an accountability standpoint, but in a culture of accountability, it's okay to be called out, because that helps us improve and grow stronger.
Do you feel positive about the progress? Like, just what are your thoughts on what's been done over these past 3 years or so since Chief O'Hara has been in office?
I'm always hyper vigilant about where we're at, and I'm always going to want us to be further along than we are. And I think that's one of our roles as oversight leaders in this institution. And so one of the things that I'm going to be looking very closely at is we have in the federal consent decree a roadmap for reform, but also within that roadmap an embedded accountability framework. We will continue to have that roadmap. We need to build the accountability framework so that we're implementing it in accordance with how it was intended to be implemented as a fully executed consent decree.
Is the city worried about any retribution from the Trump administration, federal funding getting stripped, or anything along those lines at this point?
I can't predict exactly what sort of threats the Trump administration is going to make, but what's been made very clear is they don't even know what the threats that they're going to make are going to be. About 2-3 months ago, I got a letter on my desk from the Office of Management and Budget that basically said that all federal grants would be taken away from cities, and specifically Minneapolis. To give you an idea what we're talking about, it's like $70 million. It's $70 million for our emergency management team, which, by the way, has been preparing for this day for weeks and has done an incredible job to make sure that this city is protected and that we're operating in a streamlined fashion no matter what decisions the Trump administration makes. It's funding for things like our bomb squad. It's funding for shelter and affordable housing. As I said, about $70 million of some of the core services that people expect rightfully that our city carries out. And then the very next day, they rescinded all the actions that they had taken in the letter from the previous day. So again, I don't know that they know what they are doing. Let's be real, it's a mess. And in this particular instance, they could have moved for a dismissal at any point in time prior to this specific week. It's not at all surprising that they chose this week. And so, do we have concerns about what the Trump administration is going to do next? Of course we do. But I don't think they know what's going to happen next. So what we do is we prepare to do things right for the residents of our city. We act preemptively in the form of litigation. And we're making sure that we have the resources that we need to do the job right. And if Donald Trump wants to try to entirely avoid the Constitution, if he wants to drop kick the Constitution of the United States into the trash can, well, we're going to challenge him in court.
Two more questions.
Chief, given the progress that you've made with community trust that came out in the report yesterday, does this decision put more pressure on the department to reach out to community to ensure them that these guidelines will stay in place?
So Taylor's question was around community trust, and does this decision affect that, right? So just before I came here, I was meeting with, at the NAACP, with some community leaders, civil rights leaders, and we had this conversation. And so I don't think there is obviously a universal answer. I think it's different depending on who we're talking about, who you're going to define as community. But one thing that I believe is very different, at least since I've been here over the last 3 years, is we do have more relationships and better relationships with members in the community than what was initial when I came. And so the conversation that we had is members of the community that are a part of this work with us. That goes on regardless, and they are committed to moving forward with us together because it is ultimately to the benefit of our residents to do that.
Chief, how long do you plan to stay to see this through? I think your term expires at the end of this year. Will you be seeking another term? Will the mayor go for another term for it?
So Dina's question is, how long am I planning to stay? And obviously, I am at will. The mayor has appointed me, and the term does expire at the end of the year. So if our mayor is reelected, I would expect he would want me to stay. And then it would be up to the decision of the city council whether or not that ultimately happens. But yes, I am. Yes, I am here. I have been 100% committed to the people of this town and to the police department. And so it has taken a lot out of me, quite honestly, especially with an officer being murdered almost a year ago. But I am thankful for all of the support the community has given us, all of the cards that I get every week here, the letters of support from people, and really the incredible effort that everyone in the police department has made going forward. So I'm very, very grateful.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.